Gentlemen, please remove your caps. Gentlemen, please replace your caps. Class, please be seated.
You may remain seated, but I would ask you to join me in a moment of silence in memory of former President Ronald Reagan, who passed away today. Thank you very much. Invited guests, faculty members, parents, relatives, and members of the class of 2004, welcome to the Chelmsford High School graduation ceremony. Speaking at a graduation is a serious responsibility. So when I began to prepare, I sought advice from one of my most reliable advisors, Eddie Hanlon. His advice was quite wise. He said, keep it short, like your hair. So I heeded his advice, but there are a few ideas that I would like to share with you. All across the United States of America, high school and university graduation speakers are telling seniors to take their knowledge and go out into the world and apply that knowledge to real life. By real life, they mean adult life in business, politics, the military, manufacturing, the professions, and the like. Members of the class of 2004, I hope that you are already thinking to yourselves, I would be proud to use my knowledge to help society and be successful, but I've already been part of the real world, and indeed you have. You could not be sheltered by your parents, your teachers, and others who are influential in your lives, even if they wanted to shelter you. Your school lives were changed forever when students were attacked at Columbine High School. You were in school here at Chelmsford High School when enemies took the trade towers crashing to the ground, and the impact shook the earth in every town and city in the United States of America. You've been aware as our troops have been sent around the world to places such as Afghanistan and Iraq, and you've seen the conflict every night on the news, and you've had friends and relatives hurt or killed. You have become aware of the horrors of the worldwide AIDS epidemic. You have been betrayed by people in positions of authority. You have seen people struggle to overcome prejudice based on race, religion, philosophy, or sexual preference. You have lived in a world which is being explored and altered by scientists in ways that our ancestors could not have even imagined. We no longer travel through space, we live in it. We no longer study genetic structure, we engineer it. You have not just been passive observers of those and other developments, you've been directly impacted and you've been directly involved. You have experienced every human emotion. You've been full of fear, you've been overcome by doubt, you've been overwhelmed by grief, you have exploded with joy, and you've been enraged with hate. And you have healed and have been healed by love. You have not been sitting on the sidelines. You've worked endlessly for a wide variety of charities. You've represented your school on the stage, at concerts and games, and at a host of other events, and you've done so with confidence and character. You've been a good friend and have helped those with eating disorders and those who are in so much pain that they cut themselves. You've worked on political campaigns and have been leaders. You've been in the game, not simply on the sideline. Today, as you graduate, you will take the knowledge gained through your formal education, and you will take the knowledge gained by living in this quickly changing world, and you will indeed move into a new phase of your life. Nicholas Gordon describes that phase change in his poem, "Graduations are like stepping through." Graduations are like stepping through a veil into another, larger room. Behind, where we can never go again, our memories like a shipwreck full of gold. Strange, the harmonies of pride and sadness, the dawn and sunset of new and old, the bittersweet goodbyes, while looking forward to things beyond the ridge of time. Numb with too much life, we stagger through them, time passing in the ordinary way. Relatives and friends all swarm around us, buzzing around the silence of the real. And once the ceremonies and parties are over and the sweet days come and go, all we've lost comes back to us as music of love departed, never to return. In this next phase of your life, some of you will go to college, and for some of you, that will be a tremendous shock. You're going because it seems like the right thing to do. A lot of your classmates are doing it. From what little you know, it seems like an exciting and fun place, at least on weekends. The shock will come when you are reminded that college is a type of school with classes, papers, and tests. Some of you will thrive in that academic environment. Some of you will realize, at least for the time being, that you don't belong there, and you will either leave or be told to leave by your dean. Some of you will enter the armed forces. The Marines have that wonderful dress uniform. The Army will help you to be all that you can be. In the Navy, you'll see the world. Some of you will discover that the military isn't for you and you will leave, or you will be asked to leave by your commanding officer. Some of you will enter the business world. You've watched Trump's The Apprentice and know that if you're aggressive, bright, and creative, you too can work for Donald. But the business world can be tough. Promotions and raises don't always come. Frustrations sometimes set in. Some people will thrive, others will be told, "You're fired." Some of you have no idea what you're going to do. Sooner or later, you'll find your niche. You'll make a living, maybe get married, maybe have a family, and you'll move on, or you'll be asked to leave by your parents. No matter what life brings, your years at Chelmsford will always be with you. In another poem called "Friends in High School Are Forever Young," Nicholas Gordon explains the eternal nature of your high school years. Friends in high school are forever young, unchanged. They're where you always will belong. The crowd is never gone, the pleasure stays, the music of the moment always plays. The time remains a field of wistful grace to which you may return from any place. Of course, you may still know them later on when you are someone else and the years have run. And you may love them dearly and they you, but time must make their friendship something new. Meanwhile, flourishing within your heart, there is a whole of which you are a part, a group of friends, one in love and pain, in whom your longing comes alive again. So we will always be one in our experience of these last 4 years. And as we part and move on, I ask you to remember 3 things. First, you have a sound education upon which to build. Some of it came in the classrooms. Some of it came on the stage, on the playing fields, or in some extracurricular arena. Be proud of your Chelmsford High School education and use it well. Secondly, you have a wealth of experience despite your young age. Some of it comes from tragedy, some from research, and some from the evolution of our society. Use the wisdom that you've gained in the first 17 or 18 years of your life and use it well. Finally, as you move on from one adventure to the next, from one phase of life to another, enjoy life. See beauty, feel love, appreciate what you have, and as your mother and father used to say, be good. Because if each of you tries to be good and to do good, our world will be a better place. I'm proud of you as individuals. I'm proud of you as the class of 2004. Have fun and do well. It is now my pleasure to invite one of the members of the class of 2004, Nora Sheehan, to the podium to introduce our salutatorian. Nora.
Sharda Mukunda is a remarkable individual and a very close friend of mine, so I was honored when she asked me to introduce her as the salutatorian of our class. Everyone knows Sharda as an incredibly intelligent person, but those of us who have been fortunate enough to call her our friend realize that she has much more endearing qualities. For one, Sharda has a really big heart. I've witnessed her love for her family, especially her sister Shilpa, on countless occasions. I can't tell you how many times that Sharda has turned me and other friends down so that she can hang out with Shilpa instead. Also, Sharda's love for her school is shown by all the extracurricular activities that she spends her time participating in, ranging from yearbook to orchestra. From my description thus far, many of you might think that Sharda sounds like a nerd, but that's not the case. Well, not entirely. Sharda's quick wit and surprisingly dry sense of humor make her really fun to be around. She's always willing to joke around, and sometimes her jokes are even funny. Trying to figure out how to describe Sharda in just a few words was difficult because she has so many strong qualities. Then I remembered how she had told me earlier in the year that she had written one of her college essays about the similarities between her and a tofu burger. At first, I thought she was just telling one of her bad jokes. When I really got to thinking about it, however, I realized that what she said made a lot of sense. Not really because of the fact that she's a vegetarian, but more because, like tofu, Sharda is incredibly versatile. Sharda's variety of interests and friendly personality make her the friend to so many different individuals at CHS. I think I speak for all of us here when we say that we're happy and proud to see Sharda recognized for her great achievements. Please join me in welcoming the salutatorian of Chelmsford High School class of 2004, Sharda Mukunda.
Thank you so much, Nora. I think that was really nice. I'd like to begin with a story. Last year, in one of my classes, I met a senior who said he had never seen me before. He was surprised that I was a junior. He said, "I've never seen you in the hallways before." Well, I guess that makes sense, because back then I was kind of short and small, and maybe he didn't notice me. But then I asked him if he had ever seen this huge purple backpack speeding down the hallway, and he said yes. And I told him that was me. I admitted I was a little obsessed with my bag. I used my bag not only to introduce myself, as I had to this young man, but also to make new friends. I saw a group of girls in the hallway with the same purple backpack as me, and I said, "Hey, we can be friends. We have the same backpack." I also used my backpack to move through the hallways. I'd fit between the cracks and whip my bag around, push everyone aside, and that's how I got through. And occasionally, I did use my bag to hold some books. Now, I'm not sure if all of you use your bags with so much enthusiasm. In the beginning, it would come as a shock to see some of my fellow peers without their bags. But soon I realized that not everyone took their bags so seriously. But I did see that some people develop relationships with other aspects of the school. There were people who sat in the library and read books, and there were people who sat in the library and didn't read books. There were people who stood by the snack machine and got snacks, and people who were banging the snack machines a lot of times. There were people who spent time in the band room, and there were people who spent time in the yearbook room. Admittedly, I was one of those who hung out in the yearbook room a lot this year. Looking at past yearbooks as old as the 1940s and even earlier, I would see a lot of faces, and it was a little alarming to see all the smiling faces that look so similar, except for changing hairstyles and changing outfits. So seeing the number of people who have attended Chelmsford High School in the past, and imagining the number of people who will attend the school in the future, I was a little scared. I wondered what it would be like to visit maybe 5 years from now. There would be new students, some new faculty members, hopefully a new auditorium. There would be countless changes. Slightly worried, I went to talk to Mrs. Bickle. My worries brought forth an interesting response. Mrs. Bickle told me that she only went back to her high school once after she graduated, and when she got there, she realized that it wasn't the same school because her fellow students wasn't there. The atmosphere that she had loved was kind of changed, so after that first time, she never went back to her high school. Well, I expect that I will beat Mrs. Bickle's record because I've already been back to school almost every day in the past 2 weeks. Usually I had reasons, but sometimes they were kind of made up. I did feel something different at the school without my old friends. There was no one to make fun of my backpack or yell my name in the halls. Mysteriously, I always heard my name being yelled. And I really missed those things because people were an important part of my high school experience. High school was a time of learning, but mostly learning to understand and appreciate the different thoughts of everyone else. This appreciation and tolerance is perhaps the most important lesson that high school has taught me. Every one of you has something that makes you memorable. I know a student here who practices hypnosis, and I know a student who has pi memorized to probably 20 decimal places. But to the memorizer of pi, as well as to the rest of you, I encourage us not to look at numbers as much anymore. I know this may sound false or pretentious from a former mathlete and professed math student. You might even think I'm trying to get ahead of you. But I'm not, so put away your calculators if you brought them with you today. We're not taking the SATs anymore, so there are no 1/4 point deductions for every mistake we make. So instead of leaving things blank like we were instructed to do, we can guess sometimes. Except now our choices are going to be broadened. In high school, the biggest choices we could make was which way to walk to class each day or what to buy for lunch, which for me, as a vegetarian, was quite limited. But now we have all these kinds of choices that we can make that will be more risky and hopefully more rewarding. One choice we can make is whether or not to say hi to each other when we see each other in the future. And I hope we'll all make the right choice and say hi when we see each other, because we were all members of the class of 2004 and we have a special bond. And so now to this class of 2004 and its teachers, I say thank you all for listening. Good luck to everyone, and don't forget the memories. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, would you please join me at the podium? On behalf of the class of 2004, I present you a defibrillator, which is missing in action right now, and also this brand new podium because the last one was on its last legs.
On behalf of the staff and students of Chelmsford High School, I accept these wonderful gifts and promise that they will be put to good use. Thanks again.
Would James Richard, the president of the class of 2005, please join me at the podium now? James, it is my pleasure to give you this gavel, which symbolizes the leadership and dedication of the class of 2005. With it goes the best wishes and hopes of the class of 2004. Good luck. Watch out for that.
Thanks, Gary, and thanks, class of 2004. Over the past 3 years, your class has provided an excellent example for us to follow. Your hard work and leadership have paved the way for the success of our senior year. I don't know if we can top a $35 senior week. Your class is a tough act to follow, but we will do our best. On behalf of the class of 2005, I would like to say congratulations to the entire senior class and wish you good luck in all of your future endeavors. Thank you.
Instead of giving a typical speech this year that recaps all the good times and bad times we had, I decided I'd do something a little different. I'd like to take this time to recognize our two class advisors, Mr. Shoup and Mr. Souza, because without them, this year would not have been nearly as successful as it has been. As most of you know, tickets for the senior week this year were only $35, and this was due to the tremendous leadership and work ethic of both of our advisors. Mr. Shoup and Mr. Souza jumped on board as our advisors at the beginning of junior year when we were left out in the cold after losing our other class advisors. Right from the get-go, these two guys have been incredible. They stayed up late at dances to help clean up, they've come up with genius fundraising ideas, and they've always been there to keep the class officers and representatives in line. I could go on about how amazing these two men have been and how truly grateful we are as a class to have had them, but we'd be here all day. Most of you in the class already know how remarkable Mr. Shoup and Mr. Souza have truly been, but I felt it was necessary to share this with the rest of the town. So without further ado, would Mr. Shoup and Mr. Souza please join me at the podium? On behalf of the class officers, Steve Andriopoulos, Evan Heidenrich, Shannon Flannery, and Allison Mendonza, who I extend my thanks to for their hard work, and the rest of the class of the 2004, I present you, Mr. Shoup and Mr. Souza, with our gifts and our endless gratitude. Thank you both. Thank you.
It is now my sincere pleasure to invite Dr. Richard H. Mosier, Superintendent of Schools, to the podium to introduce our graduation speaker. Dr. Mosier.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I get great pleasure in past years of introducing the graduation speakers. We've had any number of outstanding people come before a group like this and say some wonderful things each year. We've had national figures, we've had state dignitaries, and we've had people from Chelmsford and local folks. And I must say the people I really enjoy introducing the most are those that know Chelmsford, that have been through Chelmsford schools. And when we walk around, Bill Cohane and I today, entering the stadium, all of the people who say hello to Bill and welcome him to be our speaker today, it's just a pleasure to be a part of that. So it's again my pleasure to introduce our graduation speaker, Bill Cohane. 30 years ago today, Bill graduated from Chelmsford High School. It was over in the McCarthy Stadium, and he happened to be president of the class that year. After graduating from Chelmsford High School, Bill went on to UMass Lowell, where he worked towards a Bachelor of Science degree in political science, and also at Boston College with a Bachelor of Arts degree in business administration. During his undergraduate years, Bill stayed as active as he was in Chelmsford High School, and I believe that's kind of the theme of his speech this year as well. He was very interested in student government, the Student Senate at the University of Lowell, and he was the activities chairman during his last years. He was also interested in the History Club, and he was the president of the History Club at UMass Lowell. In Chelmsford since 1985, Bill has been a firefighter. I've gotten to know him as a fellow employee. He's been a town meeting representative. He's been the executive director of the Chelmsford Housing Authority. And much to our gain, he has been the founder of the Chelmsford Hall of Fame since 1989, and where he served as president from 1989 to 1901, and since 2001, he's been the president emeritus of the Hall of Fame. Bill has also served as a legislative aide for the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and he worked with the Mass Department of Public Health and Tewksbury Hospital as a special assistant to the superintendent and personnel director. Along with being a fireman for the last number of years in Chelmsford, Bill has also worked as a personal financial consultant with the Jersey Heritage Advisors, and he's been president of that organization since 1989. It is great pleasure that we welcome Bill and his wife Beth to Chelmsford, and I take great pleasure in introducing him to you as our graduation speaker, Bill Cohane.
Thank you, Dr. Moser, for that very generous introduction. Good evening to the class of 2004. This is truly a special, special night for all of you. Savor it. There are a few times in your life where all the attention of a community, of a people, are drawn towards you. Very few times. So enjoy this evening. Savor it. And I know you're all surprised that 30 years ago, I stood at a podium similar to this in the McCarthy field thinking, this guy's too young to have graduated 30 years ago. I was not on any of those programs where they did facelifts or anything, but anyway. Your graduation this evening comes with so many things, but it comes with a couple of things that I think are so important. Comes with major responsibilities, some new things, some things you're already familiar with. But primarily, in my opinion, it comes with one thing that's so important that I would hope you remember, if nothing else, from what I say this evening. Don't become part of the silent majority. Don't become part of the silent majority. What do I mean by that? As you leave here this evening, and as Principal Thomas said, and you'll go to many parts of this country, the state, the world, you'll see many things. Take up a cause. Be part of something. Speak up. Don't sit back and let others do for you. Do something. And let others hear what you have to say. You have so many opportunities ahead of you in which to do this. A perfect example is what has gone on in this community in the last few years with the development of new schools. If not for many families, many parents, many individuals speaking up, playing a role, and not accepting the fact that one loss, 2 losses, 3 losses does not mean the end. I always think that if we had accepted 1 loss as being the end, we'd still be part of England, or possibly Germany. So too, the other side. If you believe in a cause should not be, if you think it's not in the best interest of all, take up that cause and be heard. Let your voices ring loudly. But as I say, don't be part of the silent majority. Take these 12 years at Chelmsford And as you leave to go on and to further your lives, and New England has an interesting way of bringing you back, and many of you will be back. As I walked through tonight, I think I saw as many people that I graduated with as were there. Many of you are children, family, and friends of those people. We come back, take an active role in this community. The other thing is, when you do come back, be heard and give back to your community. Don't hesitate to join in to a political group, whether it be a Democrat, Republican, Independent. If it's an elected position or an appointed position, take a role in the community of Chelmsford. Your roots are here, and they will always be here. Take an active role. Finally, I think why I'm here to speak to you is a testament to one thing I think that all the TV programs we've seen recently have forgotten. You don't have to be a CEO of a major company. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be a multimillionaire. You don't have to have a name like Rockefeller, but you can make a difference. If you have an idea and a belief that you can get something done. In 1989, I had the idea that Chelmsford High School needed an alumni association, a novel idea for a public institution, very common in private schools, high schools, and colleges, but very unusual for a public school. I actually had the idea in 1975, not long after leaving here, but I never gave up. With the help of some very special friends, one of who sits here tonight, George Simone, and who many of you in these stands know, we made it happen. And today we have 2,000 members. We have an endowment fund of over $500,000, which this year will award over 20-something thousand scholarships, $20-something thousand in scholarships to your class. And our endowment fund continues to grow, and we honor every year 9 graduates of this great institution we call Chelmsford High School. I'm a firefighter from Chelmsford. I live nearby, but I believe I've made a difference in a lot of people's lives because I took an idea, I spoke up, I believed in it, and I fought for it. I was committed to making this short and sweet because I believe you all have an agenda this evening which includes not only this, but other things with family and friends. But I'd like to leave you with some words of advice. Advice from a Tree by Ilan Shamir. Stand tall and proud. Sink your roots deeply into the earth. Reflect the light of a greater source. Go out on a limb, take a chance. Remember your place among all living beings. Embrace with joy the changing seasons, for each yields its own abundance. The energy and birth of spring, the growth and contentment of summer, the wisdom to let go of leaves in the fall, and the rest and quiet renewal of winter. Feel the wind and the sun and delight in their presence. Look up at the moon that shines down upon you, and the mystery of the stars at night. Seek nourishment from the good things in life, simple pleasures, earth, fresh air, light. Be content with your natural beauty. Drink plenty of water. Let your limbs sway and dance in the breezes. Be flexible, but remember your roots and enjoy the view. You truly are a blessed class. The sun gods have looked down upon you. The last 24 hours, they talked about nothing but rain. I believe it's because of all of you that we have the sun up here tonight. Congratulations. Best of luck to all of you. Thank you.
Not that you... Bill, thank you for your words. It's my pleasure to make you an honorary member of this outstanding class of 2004.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would now like to invite Kai Yip to come forward to introduce our valedictorian. Kai?
To those of you who don't know this person, you might just think he's the smartest kid in the world. When he happens to be in one of your classes, it would have meant the world to you if a teacher assigns him with you in like a group project or something, because he can basically do all the work for you and you can just sit around and get an A for it. You might just think he's a nerd who sits at home and does his homework and reads his books 24/7, since he's voted as our class intellect. Or you might just see him as one of those kids who has no friends and sits by himself or with the rest of the nerds at lunch. But on the other hand, for those who know this kid, you will probably remember the time when he and his family ate monkeys and drank martinis at AJ's beach house. I was just kidding, that was a lie. But then you probably do remember his goofiness. You will see him making faces at teachers, dancing when Outkast comes on the radio, and playing Counter-Strike during school hours. You will see him chasing after you during a game of Capture the Flag at 11 o'clock at night, playing drums whenever he finds sticks, and shooting rubber bands at you until your arms turn red. He's just an average kid you will see in school. Well, maybe not so average because he has done a lot of things over the past 4 years. In terms of academics, he's a diligent hard worker. He takes every honors and AP courses possible and manages to get A's on all of them. He's also involved with academic-related clubs such as math team and calculus teams and is one of the highest scorers in the competitions. When it comes to sports, he has been a member of varsity tennis teams and junior varsity soccer team for 3 years. And then when you think about the community work, he has been a member of the Lowell Youth Fellowship for 5 years and has been a drummer on the worship team for 3 years. How can a person do all that and still have a social life? I have no idea. Who knows, maybe he's a newborn Superman or something. The best thing about this person, besides all the things he's involved with in his life, is his personality. He's a very outgoing person. You can do anything with him from watching a movie to taking a walk and still have a good time. He's a nice kid too. He says hi to you whenever he sees you in the halls. Best of all, he's very dependable. He's the type of person who can give advice and encouragement whenever you need it. You can call him at the weirdest hours and he can still find time to make you feel better. For a guy like that, you really can't find anywhere. So maybe he's not Superman, but he's sure to be our class of 2004's valedictorian, as well as my best friend. Without further ado, here he is, Eric Chefaisu.
Well, I'd first like to say good evening to everyone. Principal Thomas, Dr. Mosier, let's see, there's a long list. Deans O'Brien, Doherty, and Battle, and as well as the faculty, the honorable guests, my friends, and my family, and all your friends and all your family, as well as my fellow graduates of 2004. Well, I'd like to begin by asking you to think about a choice for a moment. Which of the following career paths, let me take these sunglasses off, would you choose? Which of these following career paths would you choose? First, a 7-figure earning, leather pants wearing rock star with a private jet and a fleet of Hummers and Mercedes. Or second, a poor, mosquito-bitten doctor eating yesterday's bread for tomorrow's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In a third world country full of hostile sentiment that could mean being shot at any moment. Despite the fact that both of these choices are rather tempting, my first point of advice to you in this matter would be to stay true to yourself. Thank you. Personally, I would go with the rock star option because rock stars always seem to get the girls and the money. But this brings me to my second point, and it's more important, I believe. Don't be true to yourself. I repeat, do not be true to yourself. I understand that this might be a shocking and even incendiary piece of advice. We have all been told to follow our dreams and find our passions, and in no way do I wish to discourage you from achieving what your heart desires. Rather, I would encourage you to first desire something above and beyond, and far greater than yourself, and that is to be a servant to selflessness. Thank you for the All right. I'm convinced by my relationships and interaction with other people, as well as by much self-reflection, that there is at least one thing we all have in common as social and spiritual beings. At some time or another in our lives, we have wanted to be cool, we wanted to be original, or to be accepted by others. And this desire to be accepted goes much deeper than many of us would like to admit. It has the power to make or break your day, and it can control the way you live your life. Our souls are like fragile masterpieces. The greater the amount of time and commitment we allow people to invest in our hearts translates into a greater power for those people to hurt us or break our hearts. And I know that you know that our hearts are broken all too often and all too swiftly. Now, I wish I could just tell you to all get along and be nice to one another, but I doubt that approach would work. Thus, I feel compelled to give you a third piece of advice. We must get away from wanting to be needed, because only then can we possibly hope to become selfless servants, and only then can we hope to give the whole of ourselves. And in this matter, there can be no compromise. Besides the rare bunch of selfless saints who are interspersed among us, the rest of us have a hard time surrendering all of ourselves. I, for one, tend to be part of that group who tries to live for others, but many times with a discontented or grumbling manner, wishing that others might notice me more for my efforts. And there are also others, though, who attempt to fulfill their personal happiness with money, pleasure, or just their ambitions. And at the same time, though, they try to be good by acting honestly and humbly. But the reality of human nature, however, is that you cannot have it both ways. You must give up everything or nothing at all. I'm convinced that a selfless servant is the only genuinely happy brand of person. The rock star is one who enjoys life in the small and temporary pleasures and triumphs, which are plentifully found in the shallow surface layers of life. But it is the doctor in the third world country who knows that the treasure is buried much deeper. The work to find that treasure is hard, and most of it must be done while no one is looking or notices his painful and seemingly pointless efforts. In his selfless service, however, he has gained hope and abundant life and has learned how to love others unconditionally. I know that surrendering one's desires is tough and even impossible, it seems. The greed, ambition, and gluttony that creep into our hearts can be overwhelming and suffocating to our better selves. For me, it took the self-sacrifice of a selfless servant to initiate change, and I have yet a long journey ahead of me. That servant reaches out to everyone, starting with the outcast, the hated, the lonely, the sick, and the tired, and his name is Jesus Christ. His calling to selfless service has become my own, and with it has come hope, strength, and most of all, enduring joy. By his and others' examples, such as Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, and my mom, I look confidently to the future because I now believe that selflessness breeds selflessness. It is contagious. Trust me. You want to contract the sickness of selflessness. I also believe it is the only way to find and be true to yourself. There's no fear or cowardice in being selfless, but there is bravery, there is courage, there is nobility, and there is love. The greatest leaders in history were first and foremost selfless servants. No matter how good or bad we think we are, each of us has the potential to be a selfless servant. From that comes a choice that we must make. And if you need a little help in starting your transformation into a selfless servant, I'd recommend a warm smile, a handshake, or a hug to your nearest neighbor, wherever and whenever. Thank you, and best of luck to you guys.
It is now my most sincere pleasure to introduce to you the former Dean of Hawthorne House and the current Chair of the Chelmsford School Committee, Mr. Angelo Taranto.
Thank you. Our congratulations to you, the graduates of the class of 2004. You have made your mark in the records of Chelmsford High School by your outstanding examples of leadership, academic, and athletic achievements, and most of all, the overwhelming community involvement. All of you have served as a role model to the underclassmen. Remember what you have done in achieving your successes here at Chelmsford High School. Embellish them. Continue your great strides and use them to lead you to your future. Continue your commitments to do your very best. Remember, successes and achievements are not a matter of chance, but a definite matter of choice. Don't let go of your hope. It is hope that gives you the strength to continue when you feel like giving up. Don't ever quit believing in yourself. As long as you believe that you can, you will have a reason for trying. Don't let anyone hold your happiness or destiny in their hands. Hold it in your own hands, therefore it will always be in your reach. Hold on to the right way. Take responsibility and don't make excuses. Use your mistakes as a learning experience. Now take with you and utilize your education from the past 4 years here at Chelmsford. Use it to guide you to your future. May you realize your highest potential, achieve your dreams, and discover all of the wonders of life that has to offer you. Congratulations and best wishes.
Amanda Louise Alves. Elizabeth Christine Arnold. Rebecca Ruth Babbage. Marie Ann Baraldi. Teresa Lynn Bergazzi. Christina Marie Bordini. Julianne Elise Brody. Sarah Rose Buckley. Mary Beth Bunker. Elizabeth Ann Case. Christine Ann Capella. Diane Cecilia Queso. Joanna Castano. Yvonne Cheng. Laura Ann Clark. Elizabeth Ann Cohen. Lauren Elizabeth Colleton. Jenna Reeves Camo. Carrie Ann Evelyn Couture. Nicole Ann Cucciara. Darcy Lee Decker. Casey Alyn Denoyer. Leah Rose DeMaio. Sarah Elizabeth Doran. Kathleen Elizabeth Erskine. Catherine Lynn Fitzpatrick. Gretchen Ann Gallagher. Shanette Marie Gamache. Allison Whitney Gent. Jacqueline Shea Goodall. Shannon Faye Hatch. Jamie Ann Hirsch. Courtney Paige Hogan. Megan Elizabeth Hogan. Jessica Marie Jenkins Keefe. Andrea Rose Joyce. Jessica Karen Lee. Jasmine Lynn. Alexandra Elizabeth Lotto. Crystal Rebecca McDonald. Christina Marie Martel. Amrita Vijay Mazurkar. Kathleen Ann McCarthy. Sarah June Medina. Colleen Marie Moore. Julie Fallon Moreno. Kate Lindsay Olson. Shauna Lee Parsons. Jennifer Marie Pomerleau. Brianna Christine Reset. Carolyn Emily Salvucci. Nikki Shakorian. Lauren Ann Skinner. Melanie Ann Steck. Evangelia Sophia Sturgiu. Min Tom Tran. Valerie Ann Traumuller. Jenna Michelle Tarosi. Sarah Ann Vega. Megan Elise Wellman. Audra Morel Akbalut. Anna Asra Amlashi. Kristen Jeanette Berry. Lily Baruch. Saren Nicole Bedell. Risa Beth Baroda. Alyssa Lee Brown. Caitlin Marie Campopiano. Cindy Chuen. Lauren Elizabeth Cole. Sherry Elizabeth Camo. Erin Catherine Curran. Leah Demers. Jill Elizabeth Deneno. Tiffany Lynn DeWitt. Sarah Elizabeth Douglas. Celine Marie Fellows. Lindsay Ann Ferreira. Jennifer Lauren Flannery. Amalia Claire Francalongia. Dana Elizabeth Gallo. Courtney Louisa Goodwin. Sherry Robin Gross. Jillian Lee Harvey. Jill Melina Hayes. Remy Elizabeth Hicks. Lauren Ashley Higson. Allison Louise Holmes. Deborah Ruth Horn. Alicia Jane Cates. Kristen Ashley Kempton. Casey Ann Kinney. Anna Kristen Kowalski. Krista Lynn LaRocca. Stephanie Arlene Lucken. Meredith Main. Allison Katrina Mendoza. Michelle Lee Moralia. Jennifer Eileen Morrison. Sharda Mukunda. Michelle Dawn O'Connor. Christine Marie Orr. Ashley Megan Patterson. Krista Lee Peterson. Kara Lee Phelan. Rachel Maria Quaden. Nicole Aaron Reardon. Christine Elizabeth Sapienza. Melinda Lee Sibelius. Nora Catherine Sheehan. Ashley Judith Sherman. Linda Sry. Carrie Ann Sullivan. Michelle Ann Sullivan. Tara Marie Thompson, Rachel Claire Tybalt, Casey Ann Tucker, Hallie Ruth Vick, Brittany Ann Wallace, Allison Joy Wellman, Lauren Deborah Whitworth, Ka Ning Yip, Catherine Doris Amaral, Jill Ashley Arkind, Heather Elizabeth Barrett, Kimberly Wanda Bassett, Amanda Elizabeth Belleville, Laura Arlene Beanick, Stephanie Joyce Batari, Danielle Teresa Boucher, Lindsay Christina Britt, Jacqueline Frances Bryant, Sarah Frances Bullock, Elizabeth Diane Canton, Ashley Rose Cantrell, Jessica Colleen Carey, Brittany J. Chasen, Isabel Jane Shishportish, L. Nicole Costa, Michelle Corinne Cotty, Lauren Elizabeth Cushing, Allison Joy Darigo, Melissa Ann DiCarlo, Francesca Leonard Desiree, Tira Christian Walworth Dewey, Caitlin Patricia DeCecca, Andrea Denise DeLando, Alicia Marie Downs, Randy Nicole Emanuel, Jill Marie Ferry, Alana Esther Finkel, Shannon Paige Flannery, Jessica Lee Gist, Dorothy Delise Glover, Christine Marie Goulet, Michelle Pearl Green, Lindsay Beth Harris, Amanda Ashley Haru, Elena Christina Herr, Jenna Marie Hill, Lauren Ann Holmes, Victoria Mary Haran, Melissa Elizabeth Hunt, Catherine Ruth James, Eleni Canavas, Megan Veronica Kelber, Alicia Ann Kendall, Cheryl Ann Keys, Sherry Ann Mary Kinney, Elizabeth Christine Lane, Faye Marie La Rochelle, Jennifer Jin Lee, Megan Elizabeth Liedberg, Pamela Blake Lindstad, Kristen Marie McDonald, Lauren Elizabeth Maiolano, Jacqueline Marie Martin, Jillian Beth Martin, Kathleen Cecile Massey, Kathleen Ann McCarthy, Caitlin O'Connor Mitchell, Christine Lee Montague, Sarah Catherine Morelli, Molly Coggins O'Keefe, Elena Rose Offerman, Monique Louise Parents, Say Roe Park, Megan Nicole Peterson, Nicole Alyssa Peterson, Jacqueline Victoria Petullo, Casey Lynn Reed, Jenna Moore Rich, Aaron O'Neill Rourke, Jessica Lee Sullivan, Teresa Marie Sullivan, Jennifer Lynn Swain, Carolyn Consuelo Taylor, Carol Q. Tron, Brittany Jean Troxel, Jenna Lynn Tully. Claire Theal Vasquez. Carrie Ann Wells. Jennifer Yu. Eric Robert Amato.
Hold on. Wait. We gotta get the boys over. All right, take a break. Have a. Come on.
Doing a great job.
You're fine. Pronunciation's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Eric Robert Amato. Brian Darrell Banda. Kevin Seraphim Betancourt. Adam Gregory Black. Daniel Frank Bolton. Eric Charles Brooks. Thomas Joseph Carey Doyle. Michael Anthony Clapp. Kevin Michael Delaney. Timothy Charles Domenico. Thomas Patrick Fahey. Russell Brian Fleming. Brian Robert Fletcher. Daniel Ian Gilfeather. Samuel White Gregorio. Jae Kwang Han. Christopher Charles Hansen. Brendan Wilcox Harris. Evan Andrew Heidenrich. Kenneth Michael Higgins. David James Hoffman. Robert Jonathan Howell. Craig Michael Jasinski. John Frederick Johnson. Mark Owen Johnson. Tyler Matthew Call. Laith Matthew Catan. Daniel Lee Kelly. Eric Werner Cothy. Matthew Max Cotfila. James Edward Labont. Edward Lawrence Lange Jr. Daniel Christopher Laval. David Bruce Leach. Kevin Andrew Lee. Albert Lynn. Brendan Thomas Lucy. Jason Frederick Magnan. John Charles Manahan. Scott Michael Mangin. Kyle Joseph Martell. Andrea Martins. Cody Allen Morris. Craig Matthew Nabalski. Stephen Riley Normandin. Kevin Michael O'Brien. Jacob Gerald Oley. Derek Michael Page. Garrett Byron Paolilli. Andrew Pearson. Joshua Samuel Raymond. Bruce Carr Rich. Michael Gerald Rooks. Jeffrey Michael Scott. John Francis Sullivan. Sean Patrick Sullivan. Christopher Stephen Temple. Austin Scott Terrio. Alex Joseph Tramontano. Arthur Quang Tron. Andrew Stephen Wisniewski. Gregory Peter Westcott. Michael Patrick Woolley. Brian Tom Wong. Sean Robert Yanosic. Adam Lewis Alharbi. Stavros Andriopoulos. Joshua John Atkinson. Christopher Ivers Boshar. Ryan Edward Boyd. Nathaniel Frederick Burdick. Douglas William Burgess. Kevin Michael Cantrell. John Edward Carlson, Jr. Corey Wilson Shagnon. Stephen Joseph Costello. Jamie David Cumming. Joshua Daniel Deshane. Joseph Leo Paul Ducharme. Brendan Lawrence Ellis. Scott William Evans. Guy William Ferretra. Patrick Sean Fleck. Joseph Frank Fries. Timothy Daniel Gallagher. Peter Francis Gleason. David Michael Geeney. Edward Joseph Hanlon III. Kenneth Herbert Hansen III. Kenneth William Henderson. Thomas Edward Hobbs. Eric Chek Fei Su. Adam Troy Joseph. Gregory Matthew Keating. Brian Philip Leahy. Thomas Edward Leahy. Gary Thomas Lovett. Charles Andrew McPherson. Glenn Andrew Martin. Gregory Philip Martin. Sunil Kumar Marwaha. Patrick Thomas McCabe. Andrew James McConnell. John Russell Meehan. Brian Kenny O'Connell. Robert Anthony Palumbo Jr. Kurt Jack Stewart Piontowski. Kai Pong. Jonathan James Ravanis. Timothy Joseph Ryan. Matthew Edward Sheesby. Matthew Wayne Smokler. Christopher Michael Sullivan. Talvar Tari. Paul Arthur Therian. Alan Chang Sao. Brian Daniel Ubeli. Daniel Bruce Ward. Joseph Anthony Webb. Scott Thomas Wilson. Aharon Nicholas Wright. Ladislav Adamek. Christopher Scott Allen. Christopher Stephen Apostolakis. Scott Aaron Aronian. Adam James Bagney. Kenneth Micah Billingsley. Travis Lewis Bly. Robert Matthew Brown. Ryan Thomas Brown. Christopher Ryan Cagle. Brian Andrew Karen. Edward Patrick Casey. Ryan Francis Conlon. Brent Jordan Coonrat. Terrence James Degnan Jr. Jonathan Allen Dodd. Brian Thomas Duggan. Richard Nathaniel Fahey, Ian James Farley, Scott Michael Gallant, Peter Jeffrey Gollins, Britton Edwin Grout, Justin Humphrey Galuzian, Robert Edward Hansberry, Ghazi Samir Hassan, Gary Daniel Kay, Alexander Karen Kennedy, Matthew Garrett Crone, Ji Lee, Brian Scott Lamica, Kirill Ivanovich Lucipurian, Sean Allen McLaughlin, Christopher Stephen Maffetone, Mikhail Gregory Main, Jonathan Joseph Manolakis, Joseph Peter Macarel, Neil Patrick McDade, Joshua Michael McTeague, Justin K. Moy, Jared Kurt Norman, Paul Russell Reed, Michael Charles Roy, Joseph Alexander Ryan, Jeffrey David Sardarelli, Jonathan Richard Sardarelli, Damian Alexander Schmalz, AJ Shah, Adam Gregory Siegel, Ryan Adam Silva, Tyrell Julian Smith, James Michael Squilacciati, David Lee Sturgeon Jr., Brian Mark Talbot, Tan Hyun Tran, Richard Kiang Ung, Andrew Chung Wang, Daniel Wayne Whitehorn, John Michael Wickens, and the president of the class of 2004, Gary Gerard Heffernan Jr.
Before we end today, I'd just like to let the class know we have one more gift for you. So if you go back to the gym, you can take one, and it's just a little something to say thanks. To all those here today, I present you the class of 2004. Class, please turn tassels.